Welcome to Discover the Difference, a podcast brought to you by C3. I'm your host, Jamie Reed, alongside my bud, Gabe Earl here. Today, we have a former Navy SEAL in William Branum on the show. I love William's story, and almost every special force person we've brought in does the same thing. They display vulnerability. And William walks us through all the trials and tribulations he had just to become a Navy SEAL, and then more importantly, the transition out, how difficult it was, the lack of purpose, and how he spiraled down before finding CBD, going to a CBD conference, and being challenged by a lady there that said, hey, you're a freaking Navy SEAL. You want to be in CBD industry, go figure it out, bud. He accepts that challenge, steps into the CBD world, owns a company that now manufactures the cleanest, most elite product out there. And at the same time, he's taken all that experience and become a leadership coach, helping businesses get to the next level. So you're going to really enjoy this episode with lots of great content on how to overcome adversity and find success in life, whether it's through his 5 secrets of a Navy SEAL or any of the other tips that he gives. So enjoy this episode. All right, Williams, so take us back. You came through the Special Forces. Is that something that you knew forever that's what you wanted to do, or how did that unpack as you matured and entered the final stages of high school?
So I grew up, I'm very young, even though I'm going to sound old right now. I grew up in a time when there was no internet. We didn't have cable. I was super poor growing up. We had 4 channels, and oftentimes it was a black and white TV where there was a channel up here and a channel down, and you had to do the one at the bottom, 82 turns to find the channel you wanted to be on.
I remember that.
I watched a lot of right?
The big TVs this wide.
Yeah. And rabbit ears and the whole thing to try and get the channel. So I grew up watching a lot of John Wayne movies. I watched, he was in a movie called The Green Beret. The Rambo came out. I watched a lot of Chuck Norris movies. I watched a lot of Kung Fu theater. And I remember thinking that I want to be part of some sort of small elite military organization when I grow up. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe that's an Army Ranger. Maybe that's a Green Beret. Maybe that's Chuck Norris was in a movie called Delta Force. Maybe I want to be on Delta Force where they drive dirt bikes and shoot rockets at terrorists and things like that. That sounds pretty cool. I haven't got to do that yet. At least the dirt bike rocket piece of it.
There's still time.
There's still time. Again, Kung Fu theater. So I wanted to be a ninja when I grew up. And I grew up hunting. I grew up in Mississippi. I was heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. And, because I was so involved in the Boy Scouts, the organization that I was a part of, they paid for me to go to this national jamboree. And it happens every 4 years. It was in Fort AP, Virginia. And we partnered up with another Boy Scout troop and went together. And I met a kid in this other Boy Scout troop. He was he knew his plan. He's like, when I graduate, I'm going to the Naval Academy. I'm going to fly F-14 Tomcats like Top Gun, and I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, that's cool. I want to go to the Naval Academy. I want to be just like you. I want to, fly F-14 Tomcats, and what's a Navy SEAL? And so he explained what that was. It's the most elite military organization in the world. They jump out of airplanes, blow stuff up, shoot guns, scuba dive. I'm like, where do I sign? And so that was kind of in the back of my mind, even though my entire childhood, I was like, I will never join the Navy. I will never be on one of those ships floating around out there in the ocean. That's just not who I am. That's not what I do. And so I came back from that trip, and I'm thinking maybe, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, because that sounds cool. Army, I don't know what I'm going to do. Something like that. And then the Navy recruiter called my house, and he was like, hey, just by chance, have you ever thought about joining the Navy? And I was like, man, yeah. Well, I was thinking about becoming a Navy SEAL, and I want to go to the Naval Academy, and I want to fly F-14 Tomcats. I totally took this other guy's idea. Those are mine now.
It's yours now.
And so, I did 1 out of 3. And the reason I didn't want to be part of the big green machine, the Army or the big Marine Corps or anything like that is, I also grew up watching movies about the Civil War and World War II. And I just remember like these troops just getting online, facing one another, either during World War II or the Civil War or whatever. And they're just like, fighting one another, like face to face. And I was like, that's dumb. Like that's your odds of, you're going to die. I want to not die. And I want to sneak around and take you out before you even know it. I don't like having a fair fight. I always lose fair fights. So let's just not be fair. And so when I had the opportunity to join the SEAL teams, I was like, that's the route that I want to go. And so I joined the Navy. I failed the SEAL screening test the first time I took it. I had a mindset issue back then. And it took me a long time to fix that because there's a minimum score that you have to get in to be accepted to go to SEAL training, to go to BUDS. And when I was taking the screening test, I was focusing on that minimum number. I got to get this small number. I wasn't thinking like, let's see the number for push-ups. You had to do 52 push-ups. Not that hard. Well, I wasn't thinking like I need to do 152 push-ups. So I got out of the pool. I'm doing my push-ups and I got to like 37. I'm like 38. I don't think I can do anymore. And so I ended up having to go spend some time on a ship. And that almost cost me becoming a SEAL because I went to a school. I graduated boot camp. I went to this school in the Navy that I have to go to advance in the Navy. And then I went to another school rather than like going and taking the SEAL screening test again while I was in this first school. I was like, I'll go to this other school. I'll get in better shape and then go take it. Because I went to this other school, I had 24 months of obligated service to a ship in Yokosuka, Japan. And also because of that school, when it came time for me to go to SEAL training, the guy that was in charge of everyone that does that job in the Navy, he said, you're not going to become a Navy SEAL. You're not going to SEAL training. I will not let you go. You're too critical because we only have a handful of people that can do that job. And you're one of them. So I'm not going to let you go. And I was like, bro, that's not cool. I only want to be a Navy SEAL. And then I tried to negotiate. I'm like, well, the odds of making it through the training are very small. So let me go. Maybe I don't make it. And you got me back. No deal.
Did he go for it?
No, not at all. And so I'm almost, my time on the ship is up with no orders. I don't know what I'm going to do next. And the chief of naval operations came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan. And to kind of, explain who that is, the CNO, the chief of naval operations, is the most senior person in the Navy. The only people more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. So this guy came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan. He gave his vision of like the Navy, the future of the Navy, whatever. And then he asked, does anyone have any questions? And I'm like, my hand is up before he's even finished asking that question. And he calls on me and he says, and I said, yeah, I joined the Navy to become a Navy SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go. My detailer won't let me go. He says I'm too critical, but I think I deserve a chance to go. What do you think? He turns to my commanding officer and he says, is he a good guy? And my commanding officer says, yes, he was a sailor of the quarter this quarter, which is kind of like employee of the month because I did a good job sweeping or shining the bright work or whatever you do on a ship in the Navy. And he turns back to me. He's like, check, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date. 6 weeks later, I'm off to California to start SEAL training.
Wow. So, that question could backfire though too, right?
Because
what do you think? I think you need to serve more time in the Navy. Yeah, it certainly could. But what do I have to lose? I didn't even realize that like how powerful this person was. The reason it wasn't even my idea really to ask him. It was other people who knew I wanted to go and they knew I was having a hard time getting there. They're like, hey, why don't you ask this guy? He's been a common sense leader his entire career. People have asked him to like brought policies that don't make sense up to him. And he would just change them on the spot. And so like, you might as well ask. I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask. And again, I had no real levity of like who I was actually talking to. Turns out I got by. I made it.
So that's awesome. Is that the mindset shift that you're talking about, or what was the actual mindset shift that you had to say, hey, I can do this. I can go beyond this 52 push-ups.
It was, stop focusing on the minimum number. How many can I actually do? What's the maximum I can do? instead of limiting myself by the limiting, we all have limiting beliefs, and really there's nothing that really quantifies those limiting beliefs. Like we can push ourselves so much further than we believe we can. You just have to like forget about the minimum and like how far can you go? How big can you go? How much money can you make? How much impact can you have on the world? That's, that was the change that had to happen in my head. And I actually failed the screening test the second time I took it. So this time, and so this kind of adds to it. So the second time I took it, there was me and like 10 other guys. I beat everyone on every event because I was like, there's no way I'm not passing this. I was the first one out of the pool on the swim. I did the most push-ups. I did the most pull-ups. I did the most sit-ups, and I was the fastest runner. I was the only person taking the screening test to become a SEAL. Everyone else was taking the screening test to become either an EOD guy or a Navy diver. It's the same test, just the standards are different. So to be a SEAL, the standards are higher. You have to swim faster, run faster, more push-ups, more pull-ups, more sit-ups. And so I crushed everyone. And the run, those guys ran in shorts and tennis shoes, and I did the run in long pants and boots. And they were boondockers. I don't know if you know what boondockers are, but they weigh about 8 pounds a piece. They're very heavy, like steel shank, steel toe, low cut boots that they, issued me in boot camp. And that's what I had to run because you had to run in boots. And so, and I beat everyone on everything. And I remember like coasting, coming across the finish line. And I failed the run by like 12 seconds or something. I could have easily finished the run, but I'm like, I'm so far ahead. I'm crushing everyone. I'm the man. I got this. And then I failed it. And I was like, okay, put your ego back in your pocket because that served you never. And so, you can pass it. So I had to go take it the third time and then pass it with
how much time in between?
Nothing.
Between time two and time
three. Like probably 2 weeks.
You could just keep
really
trying at it.
Yeah. It really, it's like, you have to find people who are willing to take time out of their day to come and like watch you do these exercises and grade you on them. And then write up a thing at the end saying he passed or failed, or this is a score or whatever. So
do you have to do any sit-ups in the ocean?
What's that?
Did they have you do any sit-ups in the ocean?
No, they didn't.
So our buds training was false.
Yeah.
That was after I got to buds. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So you finally passed that test. What's next in moving forward the Navy SEAL aspect of your career?
So that was, submit my package, request, hey, I want to go to SEAL training. No. The CNO says yes. Then I'm off to California for that 6-month block of buds. And it took me a short 13 months to get through that 6-month block because, I didn't. The honest truth is I didn't train hard enough for it. And I realized when I got there, I was like, ooh, running sucks. Running in soft sand really sucks. And so I got injured because I'll just say because I wasn't prepared physically like I should have been. There were guys on my ship that said, yeah, man, you need to run in soft sand with boots on from now until you leave. And I'm like, okay, yeah, there's none of that's around here. So I'm going to do my same old exercises and I'll be fine. How hard can it be? It's pretty hard, actually. But that's kind of the way I've always thought about it. How hard can it be? It's less hard the more prepared you are. So I got injured. I got rolled back. I got injured again. I got rolled back. They were going to kick me out because I got rolled back twice before I made it to Hell Week. And I was like, the first guy was like, okay, clearly you didn't prepare. I recommend you being kicked out of training, come back in 2 years. I'm like, no, hold on, wait. So I went to see the second guy and I'm just like bawling, crying, tears. I'm like, please don't kick me out. I may not have a chance to come back. And I told the story about the CNO coming to my ship and my, all that drama. And he was like, go stand outside. So I go stand outside in my crutches and I'm there for like 3 hours. I don't even remember the guy's name. And I remember the guy who recommended me to go. I still hate him to this day. And he was still, I worked for him at SEAL Team 4. And I hated him the whole time. But so then he was like, I stood outside like 3 hours waiting. He came back. He's like, what are you doing here? And I said, you told me to wait outside. No attitude out of me. And he was like, go check in. You'll be in the first class. This is your last silver bullet. And I'm like, okay, check. when I started that third class, I was not healed up. I limped my way all the way through the first phase of training, all the way through Hell Week, and whatever injury I had healed up during Hell Week. And I was like, oh, I'm good to go. And then after Hell Week, because I was limping on one leg, I created stress fractures on the other leg. And then I couldn't keep up again after Hell Week. And they're like, and I was like, okay, here's the deal. If you're going to kick me out for my injury, I'm just going to keep going with a broken leg. I don't care. And they're like, you're shut up. You'll be in the last class. So I eventually graduated in class 208, 13 months to the day of checking in.
Dang, that's some trauma to get through.
Just the beginning.
So from there, what your experience in the Navy SEALs, was it everything you hoped it would be when you were a Boy Scout and that other kids telling you about it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was in at a good time. You know, I got to the team. I didn't go to the team I wanted to go to. I ended up going to a team called SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 2 on the East Coast. And, you know, their focus was undersea. They have this mini submarine. You put 2 guys in the front, 4 guys in the back, and you go places in the world and you do stuff that no one knows the wiser. And so it was a very cool capability, but I didn't want to do that job. I wanted to be a sniper. I wanted to like kick doors and do all that other stuff. And then I eventually became a sniper. Then I went back and I taught sniper school a few years later. And I was actually teaching sniper school when 9/11 happened. I was like the senior instructor on the ground at the time. I was not the senior man, but I was the senior instructor. And then guys that were going through the course, or the guys that were like student instructors that were working for me, even though they were senior to me, they were like 9/11 happened, and they all turned to me and they said, what do we do? And I was like, I don't know. Hold on. Let me call somebody. Let me call a friend. And again, this was like the beginning of cell phones. Like, so there weren't like, you know, iPhones all over the place. And so I called the headquarters and I was like, hey, what do we do? Do we need to like load up? And we were in Indiana. Our sniper school is in Camp Atterbury, Indiana. And so I was like, do we like load up and go help with the recovery effort up in New York, or what do you want us to do? And they said, continue training, because we're going to need those skills very soon. I didn't really get the gravity of what that meant, but I can follow orders. So I went back and I told everyone, all right, we're going to take the rest of the day off, call your people, get your affairs in order, because tomorrow we're going to hit it hard. And we did. And, you know, soon after that, we started deploying to Afghanistan. And then, you know, about a year later, we started deploying to Iraq.
So you deployed as a trainer, or you were deploying as a...
I left I finished my time as an instructor, and then I went and started deploying with the SEAL teams.
Got it. And how many times did you go over there?
I have 7 combat deployments.
Wow.
So I went to Iraq 4 times and Afghanistan 3.
Wow. That's a lot, right? I mean, even for somebody who loves it and that's what you wanted, that has to become a lot after a while, right?
It is. You know, I know guys that have so many more deployments, but you know, in the regular SEAL teams, we do 6 to 7 month deployments. And so each one of those was, you know, 6 months at a time. So I've lived overseas for a few years in those zones, and it's not all. It wasn't every deployment wasn't, you know, full on hard combat. Some of them were more administrative, more kind of peacekeeping, almost like go and train, you know, the partner force of the country, use them as, you know, your surrogate force for going and doing direct action missions or whatever. Collecting intel, because the goal at the end of the day is to turn the country back over to the people who live there. Right. We don't live there. We have a you know, a vested interest, but we don't live there. So it's really to turn everything back over to them. So, but that doesn't mean that even though we were doing this mission over here of like helping build the country back up, we still weren't hunting terrorists at the same time.
You know, it's obviously, you know, for the listeners, you know, everybody, you know, here's what you did and is really grateful and appreciative of your service. What would you say, like, what were some of the things that you learned the most from your time over in combat? You know, there are these soft truths, special operations forces truths. And, you know, one of them is people are more valuable than equipment.
And that's absolutely true without the people, because it takes so much time and effort to train someone up to the level that we work at. And then there's so much trust that you have to put into them. Like, you're literally trusting your life. The guy that's to your left or to your right or behind you is going to pick up your six, if you will. He's going to like cover your back. If I go this way, I know that you're going to, if I turn left, I know you're going to turn right. I know you're going to, like, if I expose myself to a danger area, you're going to put yourself in that danger area to protect me and engage a threat if it's there. So there's a tremendous amount of trust and dependent on your people. And this is really a leadership lesson that comes from, going into harm's way and doing hard things.
When you talk about that leadership lesson during that 7 different deployments, was there a moment where you're like, okay, this is what is beyond my time with the Navy SEALs, and like an epiphany you had that your next course of action?
No.
No.
No. Go
you
back,
just ran
clean
your
up, get ready to do it again. Yeah.
So how do you figure out your transition out of the SEALs if you weren't having some vision of what that looks like before?
So for me, it was your time is up. You've spent, you get to stay in the military as long as you want, up to a point, based on your rank and based on the job that you're doing. So I retired as an E8, enlisted. I'm the second to the most senior enlisted rank. And
is that kind of like an Eagle Scout? Is that kind of like
an Eagle Scout? Yeah, very similar. I can only go for 26 years, maximum of maybe 27 years if you go do some special job overseas somewhere. But I hit the 26-year mark. I was in absolute denial about getting out. I was like, I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. And my last 3 years, I was working at the headquarters, doing science and technology stuff. We have a system called the Operational Deficiency Report. And so my job in that role was to go out and find new and create new technologies that didn't exist that would meet operational requirements that we had. So, for example, like I went and partnered with companies. So I had a problem and I would go to, different vendors and say, hey, can you help me solve this problem? And they would say yes and give me kind of a plan. And then I would go find money. And I went and found $16 million of other people's money to solve problems that we had and create prototypes. And then, some things became legacy items that are still being used today. But so I was in complete denial about, getting out. And then I was like, okay, I need to figure out a plan. So I started a company doing something similar to what I was doing in, at the headquarters in my last 3 years. But it was a grind that I did not like. I didn't like rejection so much. People telling me that I'm a criminal because I'm a consultant. I learned, very quickly I have to figure out what my new vocabulary is. And because they were like, oh, we've had consultants before, they suck. They just take money from us. They don't, and we never get any value out of it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not that guy. I'll bring value. And then, but kind of along that way, I had a bunch of baggage, and what I call baggage, and I call it, I don't call it PTSD. I don't call it anything like that. I just call it baggage because we all have it. A lot of it is from my time in the SEAL teams. And there's a lot of it that is from some not so awesome relationships that we kind of talked about earlier, which I still battle with today. And I had, a lot of noise in my head, like negative self-talk and all this other stuff. And the only way that I could find to really dial that back or dull that out was just pretty much drink myself to sleep at night. And if you frame that a little differently, maybe that was me drinking till I passed out every night. I'm not really sure, but I can tell you that when you drink that much alcohol, you don't perform optimally the next day. It just doesn't happen. I tried. It just doesn't work. And so I had heard about this molecule called CBD. I was still in the military when when I heard about it. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy was talking about medical marijuana, and everyone knows the benefits. And we're still working on benefits of THC and figuring that out. But there's this other molecule that I think will be the next big thing. It has all these medicinal values to it. It helps with stress, anxiety, helps people sleep. It helps with pain. It helps with chronic inflammation. It helps with certain kinds of epilepsy. And I think this is going to be the next big thing. And so CBD was still kind of like black market, not federally legal. It was legal in places like Colorado and maybe California, where, marijuana was more legal, or medicinal marijuana at the very least. And so in 2008, March 20th of 2018, Congress passed the Farm Bill, which made hemp legal. So the difference between hemp and marijuana, they're pretty much the same plant, but hemp, the definition of hemp is the dried weight of the plant has 0.3% or less THC in it. So people are able to breed the plant, really smart people breed the plant to breed out the THC and increase the amount of CBD that's in the product. And so then there was this big craze of CBD products like flooding the market. And at some point, I think 2019, I was out of the military. And I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to try CBD because I'm like killing myself over here and this is not okay.
So you're self-soothing there's no other organization that you turn to for help or whatever. You're trying to figure it all out on your own.
Yeah. I'm not one to ask for help that often.
Is that pretty common in the special forces? Or
I think it's common I think it's common just men, period.
Yeah.
Like how often do you really ask for help? You don't want to appear weak to anybody. You don't want to appear needy. You don't want to you're like, as a man, I'm a protector. I'm a provider. I'm supposed to be the strong element. And so that's important, but also taking care of yourself is important. And I learned this lesson in the military that I continue to fail at and repeat the same thing, in that, if there's a kind of a saying that says, if you don't take care of yourself, no one else will. And I'm so busy taking care of other people, I'm not taking care of myself. And so at some point I had to figure out, and this was very slowly happening. Eventually I started to ask for help. I was having lunch with a former teammate of mine, and I told him, I was like, hey, I was in Virginia, and I said, hey, I think I'm going to see if I can find some CBD, because maybe what you have here in Virginia is better than what we have in Hawaii. I don't know anything about it at all. And he was like, oh, if you want CBD, I've got some at home. So he gave me a bottle, and I used it. And I don't know that I noticed anything while I was using it. Maybe I was a little less pissed off. Maybe I slept a little better. Not real sure. But what I do know is water boils at 212 degrees. And I was probably living my life at 210 degrees. And taking that CBD was a very gradual decrease in temperature. I didn't notice it at the time, but I noticed it when after 30 days or something that I ran out of that bottle, in that I was less pissed off. Things that would normally set me off, I had more time to respond to them rather than just react. And so, and then, different pains in my body, they were just less bad. They're still there. They're just less bad. And when I stopped taking the CBD, my fuse started getting shorter again. So I was at 210. I went from 210 to 205 to 200 to 195 to 190, maybe 185. Got out of that red zone of flashpoint, and got into, my fuse got longer, and the pains were just not quite as bad. And then when I stopped taking it, I started getting closer to that boiling point again. My fuse got shorter. Pain started coming back, that I was like, I haven't felt those pains for a while. What's going on? And then I was like, maybe it was the CBD, maybe not. So I tried a different brand, and I had similar results. So now I'm like, oh, I want to be in the CBD industry. Because the thing about, and this was really the question that you asked, my transition from the military to civilian life was the hardest military mission I've ever been on. And I've been on a few. Because when I was in the military, I had a purpose, I had a mission, and I had a team. And I had a badass purpose and a badass mission and a badass team. And it was like the movie The Avengers, where Thanos snaps his fingers and half the world's population goes away. That's the way I felt. And I was so I was struggling, failing as an entrepreneur. I did okay financially. I just wasn't happy doing this consulting job that I had created for myself. CBD was something that was helping me. I'm interested in the industry. How do I get in the industry? I don't know anything about it. And then I was at a business conference. It was called the Empire Business Summit in 2019 in San Diego. And the guy who gave me that first bottle of CBD was one of the guest speakers. So he brought me in as his VIP guest. So I got to have access to, backstage stuff and all around, like all access to everything at this event. And there was a Q&A session. CBD is considered by social media to be an illicit substance. And there was a girl that was putting CBD into kinesiology tape. And she went up on stage and she was like, okay, I got this thing and the thing. How do I market it? Because I can't do it the way that you guys are saying, like run Facebook ads and do this and that and whatever. And so, the coaches on stage gave her somewhat of a plan. And all I'm thinking is like CBD. Follow the girl, follow the girl, follow the girl. Okay, there she is. And then we left and I followed her out into the hallway and I was like, hey, you're the CBD girl, right? I'm like very excited. I found someone in the industry I can talk to. And she was like, yeah, can you step back a minute? I'm like, okay, yeah, you got it.
You're a little too close.
And I was like, I'm interested in CBD. I want to do the thing and the whatever. And she was like, okay, cool. Do you want to do A to B, B to B, or B to C? And I was like, I don't know what those letters mean. I want to do C, B, D. She was like, okay, cool.
I feel like you told that joke before.
Maybe once. And then it gets better. And then I was like, and she said, so, well, why don't you just start your own CBD company? And I said, I don't know how to do that. And she said, you are a Navy SEAL. You can figure it out. And so I kindly asked her for my man card back, put back in my pocket. And then she educated me a little bit about the industry, the different kinds of CBD out there. And then I went home and I Googled how to start a CBD company. And it was weird. Like this random person that I saw at a like business conference had more confidence in me about how to start that I could start a CBD company than I did my own self. And so I was like, okay, there's a lesson here. Let me just go ahead and figure my own stuff out, put my limiting beliefs behind me and just let's figure it out. Google. Oh, hey, the CBD industry is super dirty and super corrupt. And there's a bunch of shit products out there in the market. Sorry to swear. I get carried away sometimes.
Yeah, you're good.
And so I was like, okay, everyone talks about your why, your mission, your whatever. And so I was like, okay, my mission is to bring to the market the highest quality CBD out there. So I started looking for people who actually that supply CBD. So I went and found a bunch of suppliers and I kind of did my research on them, did a bunch of interviews with them. And then, there was one or two suppliers out there that had really, truly the highest quality CBD on the market. And they're not any names that you've probably ever heard of. Maybe you have, but probably not. And so I went out and I partnered with these suppliers. And the thing that makes the products that we are bringing to market different than everyone else, and really it was a change to the industry, is, we test the oil when it comes out of the plant to make sure there's no heavy metals, mercury, arsenic, lead, anything like that, which was in almost every CBD product that you could find out there in the industry. Make sure, it is actually hemp and not marijuana, to make sure it has all the things that it's supposed to have. We have specific farmers that we go to. Now everything is USDA certified organic. The farms are, the products are, the oil is. And we would test the oil to make sure it was good to go. And then we run it through the manufacturing process. And then we test it on the backside. Almost every CBD company out there wouldn't do that second piece of it. And what we found is while we were doing that, there would be sometimes contamination would happen during the manufacturing process, whether you turn it from a tincture that you put under your tongue. That's a pretty easy process to not mess up. A topical, a powdered energy drink, a soft gel, a pill that you take, or anything along those lines. And so what we found is there can be easily, like if you just mess it up a little bit, not pay attention a little bit, you can mess up the quality of the product. And so we would do testing on the backside to ensure that what you're actually putting in your body is actually what's in the bottle. What's on the label is actually what's in the bottle at the very least. So, when the industry first started going, there would be just dirty products on the market. Most products either wouldn't have CBD in them, or they would have not the CBD they said they had in them. There would be high levels of heavy metal, mercury, arsenic, lead, pesticides, herbicides, all in the product. And, you know, if you're putting something into your body to be a medicine, you don't want to be putting a bunch of poisons in your body. And so that was our initial mission. And then, you know, some more companies were being started to kind of catch up with the QA that we were doing. And so, you know, I looked at, like, I reached out to one of my coaches and I was like, hey, like, what do I do about this? You know, everyone has a premium quality CBD now. Well, what's your real mission for doing this other than you want to make money? And I looked at myself. I looked at where I came from. I'm a veteran. I have struggled, you know, from my time in the military. There's first responders struggling right now. And, you know, I saw the metric of 22 to 0. 22 veterans take their lives every single day. We've lost more veterans to suicide than we have in 20 years of combat in 2 theaters of war.
Wow.
And so that became our new mission, was 22 to 0, to eliminate veteran suicide. CBD being a modality that helped me turn down the noise in my head. It's helped many other people, even if it's not people who bought from my company.
So is that your niche? Is that the niche that you're going after, is veterans?
That's part of it. Veterans, first responders, that's part of it. But what I found is, you know, it's like everyone has stress and anxiety and pain and sleep issues and things like that. So that was my initial niche. Really, people are like, who's your avatar? And I'm like, veterans, maybe. And well, maybe they don't make a lot of money and CBD is kind of an expensive product. Maybe it's patriots. Maybe it's people who care about the military, who are also struggling, who want to help veterans. So, you know, it's interesting. I've had this company for the last, since I launched my company March 1st of 2020. So there's something else happened right after that. So even I don't remember what it was, but something happened right after that.
Well, before we leave that, can I ask a question? Because, you know, when you talk about your transition, you know, you almost talk about this depressive state you're battling, and CBD was almost part of the cure of helping get you out. But when you were a Navy SEAL, you had a tremendous amount of purpose, right? Sure. And then as you transition out, you lack purpose in your life. And was the answer CBD, or was the answer that girl who challenged you to reintroduce purpose, and purpose coming back into your life to help you come out of that state that you were in?
Both. CBD turned down the noise. It didn't turn it off, but it turned down the noise enough for me to, like, do a little reassessment of myself and try to figure out what am I doing? How do I want to do it? What is my purpose? I thought it was like helping companies navigate the military acquisition system. I mean, maybe it was going to be like, go do contracting for some agency out there, because I could go do that and make pretty good money. But I wanted to do something bigger than that. And so, you know, what gets you out of bed in the morning? And so the CBD started me on the journey of helping people. Since then, I still run Naked Warrior Recovery. I'm still very passionate about it, but I also do business coaching, leadership coaching, and mindset coaching. And I have to tell you that is one of the most gratifying things I've ever done in my life. Helping people look at things, the problems they have in their life, from a different perspective. You know, there's analogies about, like, you can't read the label of the bottle when you're inside of it. I stand outside the bottle and I read the label. You know, before this, I was just on a coaching call with one of my clients, and, you know, he's like, he keeps falling back into these sort of depressive states of trying to figure out what he's doing, what his purpose is, what his why is. I mean, he makes good money in the real estate world, even though the market is doing weird stuff right now. But he keeps, like, falling back into his why. And I put him through a pretty hard, physically challenging program not that long ago. And he came out of it. He's like, I got my purpose. I got my focus. I'm ready to go. And then he allowed other things in his life to come and, like, take away from what he thought his focus was. And every time I talk to him, he's like, I'm still trying to figure out my why. And today I beat him up pretty hard on, you just need to take decisive action. It doesn't even matter where you go. Purposeful, decisive action. That's the thing that we beat into you in this program that you did over here. And you came out of it and you knew exactly what you wanted to do and where you were going. And now you've not taken that decisive action enough times, so you've gotten away from it. So I think it's very hard for people to find their purpose. Took me a long time to find my purpose. The reason that I, wake up in the morning, the reason I wake up in the morning are things that 4 years ago, when I got out of the military, I would have told you you're smoking crack. If you'd have said, this is what you're going to do. Now, all I want to do is I want to sell CBD. I want to help people through, whatever supplements that I can help them with. I want to coach people, leaders in business and leadership and mindset. And I want to get on stage and speak and spread the message of the Get Naked mindset, which we can go into in a minute.
So do you think that there's one purpose, or because it sounded like you rattled off a couple or more than a couple, because a lot of times people are looking for their purpose. But I don't, sometimes it sounds like there might not be, the purpose. It might be multiple purposes,
multifaceted,
or it might be something that changes over time. And how do you coach people through that? Because they're, you're like you mentioned this, their client that's looking for their why, and their why sounds like it's one thing. And how do you help people get, that move to that, action where they're just moving forward so that they can, that why can continue to evolve?
So most of my coaching is one-on-one. So I have to build a relationship with the client. I have to establish that trust. Like, you can trust me. You can share things with me that you wouldn't share with your wife or husband or lover or children or whatever. I'm not going to, it's almost like I should have like a degree in psychology to do some of the coaching that I do. But they share with me like things that they're struggling with or things that they want to improve on. And then I am fortunate enough to have enough struggles and failures in my own life. I can say, hey, look at this. I also, try this. This may not work for you. It's kind of like medicine. Medicine is not science. It's a practice. Doctors have a practice. They don't have a science clinic. And so some of it is like, try this. This has worked for other people. It will work for you if you do the work. But it's about, they have to do the work. And, when I'm working with people on trying to find their purpose, I find out, like, I ask them, like, where do you want to go? And you don't even have to have like a clear vision of what that is. Like, what direction do you want to go? Because oftentimes we get lost in overwhelm, and we're like, it's too many things to do. I don't know what to do. You will just sit there and drown in overwhelm if you just sit there. But what you have to do is you have to stand up, and you have to put one foot in front of the other and start going in a direction. It might not be the right direction, but I'm going to help you get going in a direction. And then while you're going down that direction, your perspective is going to change. Your environment is going to change. And so that's going to help you make better decisions on, maybe I don't want to go this way. Maybe I'll go this way a little bit longer. Maybe I need to turn left, or maybe I just need to pivot and go, a little bit in a different way. This was, my path. This is the way that every entrepreneur, you guys didn't start off with C3. You started somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you may not even have seen where you would be today 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Maybe it was an idea, but you had to start taking action and start moving forward in a direction. And then you probably had to shift a little bit and then shift a little more. Oh, wait, we're Netflix, for example. They were, mail DVDs to your house. And then they pivoted away from that to online streaming. And then now, it's an empire now. But they had to start somewhere. And they ended up putting Blockbuster out, and Redbox. Actually, Redbox is still around. I still see Redboxes every now and then. Like,
little bit.
DVD player
at 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah, right.
My kids asked me when those were going away the other day. Well, let's shift here.
So
what Naked is.
Well, Mia actually wanted us to do this interview naked, and Gabe and I refused. We said, we'll wear pink in front of this, manly Navy SEAL, but naked's one step too far. But in your world, can you describe to the listeners how your concept around naked evolved and what it is?
Yeah, 100%. So, naked is it's multi-layered, multifaceted, kind of like what we were talking about. Like, my purpose is really to be of service. I served in the military. I served in the SEAL teams. As a leader, a leader's job is to always be of service to the mission, to the men, to the organization. I'm out. I'm still of service. Now my purpose is serving veterans, leaders, other people who want to learn, or who come and hear me speak. Naked is a message. First of all, on the marketing side, it seemed like a pretty good hook. Like I was uncomfortable saying get naked. And so I'm like, oh, if that makes me uncomfortable, I should completely embrace that.
Yeah, I'm going.
And so originally this was about my mindset. So we all walk around with some sort of armor on, some sort of ego, some sort of baggage that weighs us down. Sometimes we put the crap in the bag that we carry around, and sometimes other people put the crap in the baggage that we carry around. And so getting naked was all about like taking that armor off, taking that ego, taking that baggage off, setting it in the corner, and exposing ourselves, becoming vulnerable so we can find the healing that we actually need to move to the next level in our life. And that's what I had to do. Like I walked around with, never asking for help, never, I'm never showing weakness, never anything like that. My job was to be the man and project that into the world and never show weakness. But at some point when I was struggling at such a deep level, I had to start asking for help. And I talked to someone about this once upon a time, and they were like, so how do you feel when people ask you for help? I'm like, dude, I feel amazing. I love it. I love helping people. And so she said, so why are you robbing other people of that joy that you feel when you help other people? I was like, dude, why do you got to do that to me? That sucks. So I started asking more people for help. I still struggle with it, but I'm better at it. I understand, I like helping people. Other people like helping me. So I try not to take advantage of it.
How do you struggle with that as a Navy SEAL when everything's about team and everybody's supporting each other and helping each other?
Yeah.
Because, and you see that in the military, people are really, that's part of the training and part of the experience, and everybody's there to support each other and help each other. And then when you get out, all of a sudden you're alone.
Yes.
So
that's it. I mean, in the SEAL teams, we all know what our job is. We know what our purpose is. I know if I do one thing, you're going to do the other thing that needs to happen to fill in the gap. I know that. We work together. We train together. That's just what we do. When I left the SEAL teams, I didn't have that dependable team to fill in my gaps that I needed filled. And so now, actually, what I tell people now is, I found my new mission, I found my new purpose, and I'm building my new SEAL team. And so what I mean by that is I find, sometimes there are other SEALs that I've served with or maybe haven't served with before, or we partnered up in different ways, or other entrepreneurs, very high. I've hired business coaches that have become friends. And so these are, this is me building my new SEAL team, and people that I can depend on, people that I trust enough to go and ask for help. But when I left the military, I didn't have that. And so I struggled to even be brave enough to ask anyone for help. It's a good question. How do you have that problem? I wasn't brave enough to ask for help.
Yeah.
And that was really it at the end of the day.
It's not just men in special forces. Hopefully my wife doesn't watch this, but she's Filipino and grew up in a family that was pretty, like, they didn't just share emotion openly. Right. And so she has that in her, where asking for help or sharing feelings, what you talked about, the baggage, being able to take that weight off, that's not something that's natural. So it's like, I think it's a problem that can impact everybody. Sure. What do you say to that person in that state of mind to trigger them to get naked?
I think it's really what was told to me is, go back to that, why are you robbing someone else of the joy that you get when you help someone? Like, that was a huge guilt trip played on me. And I was like, I'm still scared to ask, but yeah, I just have to be brave enough to ask. And the more, like, I have to trust you to ask for help.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I had to establish that trust in different people. And once I trust them, then I became brave enough to ask for help. I'm not going to ask.
Look like giving a gift to somebody, right? When you're asking them for help, you're giving them a gift almost.
Right. And I'm more of a giver than a taker. So I don't like taking. Other people in the world are more about taking. So I'm just a giver, and that's just the way that I'm wired.
I guess it's like helping people realize that they can be both, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because receiving is a big thing that I think a lot of people have trouble with.
Hard to do for a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm one of those people.
What is it? you know, when you're in the teams, obviously you wake up every day and you have motivation, purpose, mission, you know, goals that you're trying to hit. You're kind of in a free space now. You're like, you have to create your own motivation, your own goals. If there's not a defined path, how do you talk to the, you know, whether it's a special force or just somebody in the military, when they transition out into this big, vast space? What's your advice to them on how to stay motivated and set goals and move forward every day?
Well, I tell them to first start by figuring out what you want to do when you get out, when you retire, when you whatever. I just had this conversation earlier this week because it sounds very familiar in my head. What do you want to do? Like, you know, this is going to end. You know that, you know, once you leave, even in the SEAL teams, once you walk out that door, you can never walk back in. They love you when you're there, but once you walk out, they don't give a fuck. So, but that's hard for a lot of people to really grasp. And so, and I've talked to other people who have friends in the military getting ready to retire, and they're stressing out on like, what do I do? And so what I tell people is like the same thing I tell my coaching clients, like, where do you want to be? Where do you think you want to be? It doesn't even have to be like the right thing. Like, let's pick something. Like, maybe you want to work for TSA. Maybe you want to be an executive in some sort of company. Do you have the degrees? Do you have what you need? Do you have, maybe you want to be in IT. Go get those certificates. Go get the degrees. Go let the military pay for all these things that you want to do. Start creating a plan. And so I've created like 5 SEAL secrets of life transitions, because we all go through transitions in life, whether we get married, divorced, have kids, have a death in the family, a global pandemic, you're fired, you're hired, you're whatever. All of these are life transitions, and they impact our lives in one way or another. But we don't generally plan for them. We don't plan for contingencies. And so I tell people, like, make a plan, brief the plan, talk about the plan, talk about what you want to do. Have people shoot holes in your plan, and then you go out and you what we call a dirt dive. You practice the plan. And again, this is where you talk about the transitions that you're going to go through. What are the things you need to do? Maybe practice doing interviews with people, write different resumes for different possible job opportunities that you might have. And then when it's time to execute, you execute it violently. And then depending on what happens at the end of that execution, you do an after action review. What went right? What went wrong? What can I change? What can I make better? And then you just apply it. And for the next plan, brief, and execution.
You mentioned,
but it starts. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It just starts with, like, you got to have direction. You got to have an idea. You don't have to know, like, you don't have to have like this beautiful shining light right there that tells you exactly where you need to go, or angels, walking the three wise men to Jesus. You just need a direction. Like, I just need to start going in this direction. You may end up going in that direction. That's fine. But you need to start moving and not feel sorry for yourself. That's what I did. I felt sorry for myself. I was wallowing in my own, like, woe is me-ism, which people are like, you don't do that. And I'm like, I'm lazy too. You're a Navy SEAL. You're not like, yes, I'm incredibly lazy. I have to be very purposeful with taking action every day, or I can easily fall back into like feeling sorry for myself. Yeah. But I've moved far enough down the line. I still have to be more purposeful now. I'm not going to fall back into wallowing, but if I'm not very purposeful about where I absolutely want to go, I can end up going where I don't want to go. So now I'm closer to my target. I need to be more direct on actually getting there.
So is that one of the 5 SEAL secrets, is just moving forward?
You know what? I haven't even made any a 5 SEAL secrets for that. So let's go over 5 SEAL secrets, and this really covers Naked. So Naked really is originally was about taking that ego off, that armor, that baggage off, so you can find healing. Then I had a coach that was like, everyone in this group needs to have a signature presentation. And I was like, oh my God, I don't like speaking in front of people. I'm scared of public speaking, blah, blah, whatever. And so I had, Get Naked as like a tagline that I started using. And so I turned Naked into an acronym. And so now when I get on stage and I share 5 SEAL secrets, it's 5 secrets to think like a Navy SEAL. And really, these were 5 lessons that I learned in the SEAL teams that I use every single day. It's sort of almost like my core values. And so the acronym goes something like this. The N is for never quit. The A is accept failure. The K is to kill mediocrity. The E is expose your fears, and the D is do the work.
I think I like kill mediocrity. I love that.
And so that, I can give that presentation in, 10 minutes on stage, or I can, give it in a 90-minute presentation, sharing stories, how these 5 SEAL secrets, how I use them in my daily life and how you can use them in your daily life and apply them. Maybe you can use only 1 or 2 of them at a time, but if you can master these 5 in one area of your life, then you can master them in the next area and the next area and the next area. And pretty soon you're unstoppable.
What's the hardest one? Do the work?
It's, it's different for everyone. A lot of people everyone understands like never quit. Where's my note? Everyone understands never quit. They think they understand it. But what I say for never quit is, and again, this was a call I had earlier today, is, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by doing hard things or big things or things that make a difference in the world. Very easy to get like, oh my God, I can't do all of that. Oh my God, I don't know how to start a CBD company. What I tell people is to create small victories. Take this overwhelming thing, chop it up into bite-sized pieces, and then consume 1 of those pieces a day. Something you can consume, you can finish, start to finish, no big deal. It's not a big, you can have 10 or 12 of those a day, but as long as you can complete 1 a day, and never quit doing that, you can complete anything. You can do anything. You can make $1 million, billion, trillion dollars, but it's 1 day at a time, 1 evolution at a time. And the thing that I equate it to is SEAL training, Hell Week, 5.5 days. You don't sleep. You're cold, you're wet, you're miserable. And but there's one thing that's constant, is they feed you 4 times a day. So it doesn't matter how much it sucks, how much you don't like carrying that boat on your head, no matter how badly you're shivering, locked arm in arm in the surf zone, because Southern California, the water's toasty warm all year round. It doesn't matter how much it sucks. All you have to do is make it to that next meal. And you just do that 1 meal at a time. And pretty soon Hell Week is done. And then you're off to the next event or the next chapter of
but it's life. Easy from there, huh?
Jamie and I did Hell Week for 2 hours. We did it for 2 hours.
Well, instead of telephone poles, we're carrying like twigs, and instead of boats, we're carrying like model boats. But other than that,
totally fine.
The same thing.
But we know
exactly pretty much exactly the same. Yeah. But like I said, it's different for everyone. A lot of people either get the kill mediocrity and expose your fears are the 2. These are probably the most I get the most feedback on, because I have a website. It's called 5 SEAL Secrets, the number 5 SEALsecrets.com. You put your name and email in there, and then I email you a copy of these 5 SEAL Secrets. It's like a 7-page PDF with some cool pictures, and I break it all down, and then I follow up with the email. I'm like, hey, for me, and there's a little video out there, like, exposing my fears was the hardest piece for me, because I didn't want to tell anyone that I was weak or insignificant or I was struggling or anything like that. So expose the fears was the biggest thing for me. I've gotten through that, and now I have to kill mediocrity every day. So those are the 2 that really kind of I get the most feedback on, that people are working on the most.
Love it.
I like that.
I love it. Well, awesome. I feel like we could just keep this going for a while here, but in the interest of bringing it forward, did Mia advise you we'd hit you with a few rapid fires here?
Go for it.
All right.
What's the worst that could happen? I don't answer.
Have a little fun here.
All right. Well, this one should be an easy one. What can you do today that you couldn't do a year ago?
Speak on stage.
If you could change one thing from your past or dictate one thing from your future, which would you pick?
I think probably future, because the past is what has made me who I am today. The struggles, the failures, all of it.
Like it.
This one's more serious. If you're gonna go sing karaoke, what's your song?
Hotel California, or something Eminem. I don't know. Hotel California.
My boys I coach call it Mom Spaghetti. That's their Eminem song. You express your affection for being lazy. So when you're in lazy mode and you're hanging out at home, what's your go-to dinner?
Steak and broccoli.
It doesn't sound like lazy cooking though. Like that makes it work.
It's easy. Oh, you know what? A bag of beef jerky.
There you go. There you go. That's
maybe some Doritos. Yeah.
All right. What word or phrase do you just, hate hearing?
Entitlement. I'm entitled to.
Yeah.
Hate.
Yeah. We hate that word as well. Heading into holiday season, what's your favorite holiday of the year?
I like Christmas carols and stuff. So let's go with Christmas.
You have your lights up already?
No, I don't like decorating. I just like whatever. It feels good. It takes me back to like my childhood of like having fun at Christmas time.
So your Sonos is already playing Christmas in the background. Is that what we're hearing?
No.
Okay.
So this part is where we're asked you to reflect, really reflect back on, your younger self. And what kind of advice would you give William, his younger self? Now, everything that you know today.
There's a lot, but I think, kind of what I mentioned earlier is, don't shoot for the minimum standard, shoot for the maximum that you can possibly do in everything that you do in life.
Like it.
Yeah, I like that too. So the show's called Discover the Difference. What's the secret sauce behind William that has driven you to get to where you are and take on what you have in life?
Failure. 100%. I don't learn a lot when I do things right, but I learn a lot when I do things wrong. When I fail, like the plaques or whatever that you see behind me, these aren't successes. These are all failures. These are like how I rose from failure. I
love that.
Beautiful.
It's something that we're always trying to figure out. How do we, teach our kids about failure and what that looks like? Because we're such a society of achievement.
Right. Or we're a society of participation trophies.
Yeah.
You didn't earn it.
All right.
Sorry.
So for our listeners out there who want to get engaged with you or get naked, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I think through 5 Seal Secrets, that email comes directly from me. And if you want to get in contact with me, hit me back with, just reply to that email, or you can find me on Instagram at william.r.branum. And then I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and a bunch of other platforms. But if you're interested in CBD, my website is NW for NakedWarrior-Recovery.com. It originally was, I still have the URL attached to it, Naked Warrior Recovery. But then I thought, well, you know what? Maybe people don't want to write naked in their search engine. I don't know why. I just had an epiphany one day. And I was like, well, maybe I should change that. And NW Recovery was taken. So you have to put the dash in there, NW-recovery.com.
All right, perfect.
And you know what? Here, if you guys don't mind, I'd love to give your listeners a discount code for any CBD products that they want to buy. And we can do it. Let's do C320 for 20% off. And as soon as we hang up, I will create that and put that in the system.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, William.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks for coming on our show today. We appreciate your time and look forward to getting this out there.
Yeah, and hopefully next time you're in San Diego or in Southern California, we can connect.
That sounds good. I like that.